In the dead of winter, when snowdrifts piled high and the cold crept into every corner of the workshop, Samuel Yoder, a quiet Amish blacksmith, discovered a way to bring light and warmth to his craft. But it wasn't just the light that would change his life, it was the way he forged not only metal but also a future that would keep his community thriving even in the darkest of times. Before we dive into this incredible story, share where you're watching from, and if tales of Amish ingenuity and resilience speak to your heart, don't forget to subscribe for more stories of timeless faith and clever craftsmanship. Samuel Yoder had always worked quietly, his forge the heartbeat of the small Amish village in the hills of Lancaster County. His hands, rough from years of hammering metal, were steady, sure, and skilled, yet, as winter descended, his humble shop was no match for the biting cold that seemed to seep into every corner. The fire in the forge, as fierce as it was, wasn't enough to stave off the winter chill, and Samuel couldn't ignore the growing discomfort that gripped him every morning as he entered his workshop. As snow began to pile on the roof of his shop, Samuel's thoughts wandered back to a winter years ago when he had nearly given up on his craft altogether. That year, the cold had been so intense that his tools froze to the anvil, and his breath froze mid-air before he could finish a single project. It had been one of the hardest winters he had ever faced. But this year, things were different. Samuel had vowed not to let the cold defeat him again. He had seen how others in the community had struggled too, and he knew that something had to change. The Amish were a resourceful people, and Samuel believed he could find a solution that would bring warmth and light to his workshop, not just for himself, but for his entire family. He had spent long hours studying the mechanics of heat and light, considering ways to harness the simplest tools and materials around him. His mind, though quiet and reserved, was always turning, always searching for a better way to do things. The usual methods had never been enough, but Samuel was different. He had the patience to try something new, to experiment when others might scoff at the idea. As winter set in, Samuel started making his secret plans, drawing blueprints in the dim light of his kitchen table by candlelight. The solution wouldn't come from fancy machinery or expensive resources. It would come from the heart of his work itself: fire. Samuel had a few copper pipes left from a recent job. They were nothing special, just scraps from a local trade. But Samuel knew that if he could repurpose them, if he could mold them into something both functional and simple, they might just be the answer he was looking for. The idea was unconventional, but that was Samuel's way. He had never been one to follow the crowd, always preferring to think for himself, quietly and confidently. It was the middle of December when Samuel began his experiment. He had cleared the small back room of his shop, moving tools and iron away to make space for his new project. The cold outside bit at the window panes, but inside, Samuel was warm with determination. He carefully measured the copper pipes, cutting them into sections, and laid them out in the shape of a coil that would fit neatly around the forge. The concept was simple. If he could circulate the heat from the forge through the copper pipes, it would create warmth throughout the workshop. But it wasn't just warmth, he was after it was light. By carefully positioning glass jars in strategic places along the pipes, Samuel planned to harness the heat to warm the jars enough to glow with an amber light, casting a soft, comforting glow across the room. Samuel had seen something similar in the homes of friends who had adapted their oil lamps for winter use. But this would be different, more practical, more durable, and above all, completely his own design. He could already picture it. The warmth of the forge circulating through the room, filling the space with heat, while the glowing jars gently illuminated the shadows of his shop. He worked slowly, methodically, each piece carefully fitting into the next. He attached the pipes to the forge, ensuring they were positioned in such a way that the heat would flow evenly, not only through the pipes but through the air around them. Each movement was deliberate, each decision weighed with care. Samuel knew that if even one pipe was misaligned, his whole plan would fail. As he worked, the village outside his door was blanketed by snow, and the world seemed to hold its breath. The last few weeks had been filled with the bustle of preparation for winter, but now, in the quiet of his workshop, Samuel was alone with his thoughts, alone with his creation. The fire from the forge flickered, its heat dancing against the chill of the room. When the pipes were in place, Samuel connected them to a small chimney he had installed in the corner of the shop. He carefully tested his creation, making sure the pipes didn't overheat or create any dangerous pressure. For hours, he tweaked the system, adjusting the airflow and watching the temperature climb in the room. Finally, it was time to light the jars. Samuel had never been one to boast, but there was something truly remarkable about seeing his invention come to life. As the first jar lit up with a soft golden light, Samuel leaned back against the workbench, a quiet satisfaction filling his heart. The workshop was warm, the light steady and welcoming. It was the warmth he had been searching for all these years, a warmth that would carry him and his family through the hardest winters yet. He sat down at his anvil, the fire now burning brighter and warmer than ever. And as the cold wind howled outside, Samuel Yoder knew that his secret was no longer just a solution for his shop, it was a testament to the ingenuity and perseverance that had kept his people going for centuries. As the winter deepened, Samuel Yoder's workshop became a beacon of warmth and light in the community. The steady glow from the copper pipe lamps shone through his windows, inviting weary travelers and neighbors alike to come in from the biting cold. For the first time in years, Samuel's workshop became more than just a place of work, it became a sanctuary. It wasn't long before word spread about the blacksmith who had found a way to heat his workshop and light it at the same time. The Amish community, known for its humble ways and focus on simplicity, was intrigued. Samuel's neighbors, who had once whispered that his methods were too complex, now came to him for advice. They marveled at the warmth of his shop, and they couldn't help but ask how they too might bring a bit of light to their own homes. At first, Samuel was hesitant to share his secret. His work was personal, a quiet solution born Samuel by quoting as Samuel, from the desire to overcome the harsh winters and the darkness that so often overshadowed his craft. He had never intended for it to become something others would depend on. But as more and more people knocked on his door, asking about his work, Samuel realized something important. This wasn't just about surviving winter, it was about helping others. So, one evening, after the day's work was done, Samuel invited a small group of men from the village to his workshop. They gathered around the warm hearth, and Samuel explained how he had built the system, how he had used simple copper pipes, jars, and the heat from the forge to create both warmth and light. To his surprise, the men listened intently, eager to learn. Samuel could see their minds turning, wondering how they might adapt his system for their own homes. Some asked questions about the copper pipes, while others inquired about the best materials for the jars. It was the first time in years that Samuel had felt truly connected to his community in such a practical way. As the evening wore on, Samuel found himself discussing more than just his invention. He talked about the importance of careful planning, of not rushing through life just to meet the demands of the moment. He shared how his years in the blacksmith shop had taught him patience, a lesson he believed was essential for survival on the frontier. The men who gathered that evening returned to their own homes, their minds buzzing with new possibilities. Some took notes, others went home and immediately began sketching out plans. Samuel had sparked something in them, an understanding that, through perseverance and innovation, even the harshest winters could be overcome. By midwinter, Samuel's simple invention had spread throughout the village. Neighbors began adapting his design, each making small tweaks to suit their own needs. It wasn't just the blacksmiths who benefited from Samuel's work. Families with small children found the warmth from the copper pipes to be a blessing, and the elderly no longer feared the long, dark nights that winter brought. For Samuel, watching his neighbors thrive brought a sense of fulfillment he had never expected. He had built the system to help himself, but now, in helping others, he saw the true power of community. The workshop that had once been a solitary place was now filled with the sound of laughter, conversation, and the shared warmth of a simple invention. As the years passed, Samuel Yoder's workshop became more than just a place of warmth and light. It became a symbol of resourcefulness, a reminder that in the face of adversity, innovation could provide a solution. People traveled from neighboring communities to see Samuel's work firsthand, seeking advice on how they might improve their own homes. He never turned anyone away, always willing to share his knowledge with those in need. But Samuel's true legacy wasn't just in the practical application of his Invention. It was in the spirit of self-reliance and faith that it embodied. Through his invention, Samuel had shown that even in the harshest conditions, there was a way forward. He had proven that hard work, patience, and an open mind could bring about change, even when it seemed impossible. The community, too, had changed. The simple act of helping one another had brought the people of the village closer together. Samuel's invention had sparked a spirit of cooperation and mutual respect. Neighbors who had once kept to themselves now worked together to improve their homes, and even the youngest children learned the value of careful craftsmanship. One evening, as Samuel worked at his anvil, the door to his workshop creaked open. A familiar face appeared in the doorway: Jacob, one of the younger men in the village who had been particularly taken with Samuel's invention. Jacob had come to Samuel many times over the years, asking questions and seeking guidance. Tonight, he had come with something different: a small, hand-carved wooden box. "I've been thinking," Jacob said, his voice earnest. "You've helped all of us in so many ways, Samuel. And I thought, maybe I could help you." Samuel raised an eyebrow, setting his hammer down as he turned to face Jacob. "What do you mean?" Jacob stepped forward, holding out the box. "It's a small project, but I wanted to make it for you something to show my gratitude. It's a new version of the lamp system you built. I thought it might help you in your work." Samuel took the box, surprised by the gesture. Inside, there was a beautifully crafted lamp, a small copper fixture designed to be more portable than the ones he had made before. Jacob had taken Samuel's ideas and refined them, adding his own touch to create something new. "I think it'll help you," Jacob said quietly. "Just a way to show that we all see what you've done for us." Samuel's heart swelled with gratitude. He had never expected anything in return for his work, and yet here was this young man, offering not only his thanks but his own contribution to the world Samuel had helped build. That evening, Samuel placed the lamp on his workbench, the soft glow of the light filling the room. As he watched the flame flicker and dance, he realized that his invention had done more than just bring warmth and light to his workshop. It had sparked a chain of kindness and ingenuity that would carry on long after he was gone. In the years that followed, Samuel continued to share his knowledge with others, but it was this gift from Jacob, the young man who had learned the value of careful craftsmanship and community, that marked the true culmination of Samuel's legacy. And so, Samuel Yoder's work in the cold, dark days of winter lived on not just in the light that filled his workshop, but in the hearts and hands of those who had learned from him. His quiet invention had illuminated not only the space around him, but the future of those who would carry on his lessons for generations to come. As the years slipped by, Samuel Yoder grew older, his hands no longer as steady as they once were, but his mind remained sharp. The village had flourished, and his humble workshop had transformed into a place where stories of resilience, ingenuity, and community were passed down like heirlooms. Samuel often sat by the hearth, the warm glow of his copper lamps casting soft shadows on the walls, reflecting on the life he had built. One crisp winter evening, as the snow gently blanketed the world outside, Samuel sat by the fire with his children and grandchildren. The fire crackled and the soft hum of conversation filled the room. His eldest son, Isaac, was now running the forge, his own steady hands shaping metal just as Samuel had done so many years ago. The young ones, with their curious eyes and eager hearts, had grown up with stories of the blacksmith who had defied the cold and brought light to the darkest winter days. Samuel smiled softly as he watched them. He had never sought recognition, never desired fame, but in this quiet moment, surrounded by family and warmth, he realized that his legacy wasn't just in the lamps or the inventions, it was in the lives he had touched, the community he had helped shape, and the lessons of patience, perseverance, and faith that had been passed down through generations. The winds howled outside, but inside the warmth was not just from the fire. It was the warmth of a life well lived, of a quiet man who had forged not only metal, but a future for those who would carry on his work. Samuel Yoder had found his peace, knowing that his light, in all its forms, would continue to shine long after the cold winter had passed.